Hi and very warm welcome at Amish Shackle 5858. I am Amish Shackle. Following news headlines have been reported by world major English news channels and news agencies. So please watch it.
Tonight, more than 170 million Americans on alert for dangerous, life-threatening heat. A random stabbing spree at a Walmart in Michigan, injuring nearly a dozen people, and passengers evacuated as a plane catches fire during takeoff. First, the brutal heat wave, the extreme heat stretching from the Midwest to Charleston, West Virginia, with feels-like temperatures in the triple digits. The health risks and travel delays. Amtrak warns passengers the scorching heat could disrupt travel. And when will we get some relief? Our weather team is standing by with the forecast. Overseas, soaring temperatures fuel wildfires in Greece, and in Turkey, thousands forced to evacuate their homes. The chaos at a Michigan Walmart, 11 people hurt in a mass stabbing. The dramatic confrontation between bystanders and the alleged suspect outside of the store. The suspect now faces terrorism charges. President Trump makes a preliminary trade deal after a high-stakes meeting with the European Commission chief in Scotland just days before Friday's tariff deadline. What we're learning tonight. Our Rachel Stott reports from Scotland. Israel is allowing more food aid trucks into Gaza and restarts power to a critical water treatment plant as anger grows over the hunger crisis. Reports that nurses are passing out from starvation and hospitals are feeding babies water instead of formula. The harrowing ordeal for passengers on an American Airlines flight in Denver, forced to use slides to evacuate on the runway as flames and smoke erupt underneath the plane. What we're learning tonight. The hunt for a suspect after what appears to be a double homicide at Devil's Den State Park in Arkansas. A couple out hiking with their young daughters, but police say they were attacked. A skipper crashes a yacht into a seawall in California's Marina del Rey. Why he's being hailed a hero tonight. The surprise performance on the final show of Beyonce's Cowboy Carter tour and the emotional family reunion, more than 75 years in the making, continues.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World. Even more files in the Russia collusion hoax are expected to be released this week. CIA Director John Ratcliffe is telling Fox News that he's been working to declassify information that sheds more light on Hillary Clinton and the FBI's roles in this growing scandal. Watch.
Part of what came out last week was about how John Brennan, Clapper, Comey, they all pushed the known fake Steele dossier into intelligence community assessments and as the basis for Crossfire Hurricane and all that. But what hasn't come out yet, and what's going to come out, is the underlying intelligence that I have spent the last few months making recommendations about final declassification and sent that to the Department of Justice that will come out in the John Durham report classified annex. And what that intelligence shows, Maria, is that part of this was a Hillary Clinton plan, but part of it was an FBI plan to be an accelerant to that fake Steele dossier, to those fake Russia collusion claims by pouring oil on the fire, by amplifying the lie and burying the truth of what Hillary Clinton was up to.
That is the CIA director. So this controversy may extend beyond the Obama administration. Devin Nunes, who's the chair of the president's Intelligence Advisory Board and former chairman of the House Intel Committee during Trump's first term, well, he says he's also looking into what may have happened during the Biden administration. Nunes says he's also zeroing in on the Mar-a-Lago raid, claiming the Biden team could have been searching for the report Gabbard released last week, which exposed Team Obama's internal machinations on the Russia matter.
This was an unprecedented act in U.S. history, where the Department of Justice raids a former president's home. That was to try to stop President Trump from being reelected. I'm going to try to get out as much of this information and get it declassified as possible.
So you believe that they raided Mar-a-Lago because they were looking for this? They were looking for the intelligence community assessment, your report on Russia's influence campaign targeting the 2016 presidential election. That's why they raided Mar-a-Lago.
I believe it had to be one of the things that they were looking for. Because, look, that report is pretty damning.
Now, critics say some members of the Obama administration could face legal implications for their actions here, and Biden officials could potentially face similar exposure for covering it up. The CIA director, from whom we just heard, wants to know ultimately if it all adds up to a criminal conspiracy.
To Pam Bondi and our Department of Justice, Kash Patel, and our FBI to investigate the conspiracy to do what and what charges that they're capable of bringing. But again, I don't think statute of limitations are going to impact, because in a conspiracy, Maria, the statute of limitation doesn't start to run until the last act in furtherance of that conspiracy.
नाक के बाल परेशान कर रहे हैं, शादी या दावत में जाना है और पार्लर जाने का टाइम नहीं, तो लड़कियों टेंशन मत लो, ये 2-in-1 ट्रिमर 1 मिनट में नाक.
Conspiracy.
All right, so a lot to unpack. It was a busy morning.
On this Sunday night, Trump's trade deal with the EU.
I think it's the biggest deal ever made. Thank you very much.
The presidents of the US and European Commission shake on it. Details of the agreement just days before the deadline and what this means for Canada at the 11th hour. Israel pauses fighting and allows aid into Gaza. Why the desperately needed supplies are not enough to solve the deadly starvation crisis. Plus, wildfires erupt in Greece, what's fueling the flames and forcing thousands to flee. And the reigning Wimbledon champion shares the court and coaches fans in Montreal.
And I just played with it. Third in the world. It's amazing.
Global National. Reporting tonight, Tracy Tong.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. We begin tonight with the latest move as the U.S. attempts to reorder the global economy, negotiating trade deals around the world in an effort to reduce trade deficits. Today, the U.S. and the EU reached a deal. After an hour-long meeting, American President Donald Trump and President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, agreed to a 15% tariff on European imports to the U.S. The Trump administration has failed to deliver on a promise of 90 deals in 90 days, but several are being made ahead of Trump's August 1st deadline. Taria Isri reports on the fine print of this deal and what could be in store for Canada.
But I think it's the biggest deal ever made. Thank you very much. Congratulations.
One deal, a third of global trade, and a lot of adjectives.
Very powerful deal. It's a very big deal. It's the biggest of all the deals.
The European Union and United States have come to a trade agreement, which includes across-the-board tariffs on EU goods entering the U.S. Not free trade, but lower than the 30% Trump had threatened.
We have a trade deal between the two largest economies in the world. And it's a big deal, it's a huge deal. It will bring stability.
The EU has agreed to buy $750 billion in American energy, purchase more
Africa News. The news.
Central African Republic's incumbent President Faustin Archange Touadéra says he will run for a third term in office. He confirmed his bid on Saturday after his nomination as presidential candidate by his United Hearts Movement party. Touadéra's current term was meant to be his last, but a 2023 constitutional referendum saw the two-term limit abolished. It also extended the presidential mandate from 5 to 7 years. Since taking office in 2016, the 68-year-old has enlisted outside forces to stay in power, including mercenaries from Russia's Wagner Group, amid a persistent conflict. Since independence from France in 1916, the resource-rich country has witnessed waves of instability, including coups and rebellions. A date has been set for December's presidential, legislative and local elections. The images are shocking. Desperate Palestinians at a charity kitchen in central Gaza trying to get some of the little food that is available. For weeks, international organizations have been warning of mass starvation in the enclave after 21 months of war. We've been waiting for 3 hours to fetch some food for our little children. There's no money and no food. There's no water, and we try to fetch a meal for our children to stop their hunger. As Israel faces growing international outrage, it announced a humanitarian pause to allow aid in. For some families, it's too late. My house was destroyed. My little child is a martyr. He died of hunger during the month of Ramadan last year. I have another sick child and I'm scared he might die too because he doesn't eat or drink. I have no flour or food. I feed them whatever I can get from the charity kitchens. As Israel continues to insist there's no famine in Gaza, doctors in the enclave say they're out of room inside hospitals as they try to treat starving patients. For parents trying to feed their children, the horror is unimaginable. Hunger. If you saw my child, he's unrecognizable from hunger. Until when? We want to end this war. We want it to end so we can live our lives. It's a famine. Our children are dying. All children are dying, and infants die the moment they come out of their mother's wombs. When will this come to an end? Despite the humanitarian humanitarian corridors to allow UN convoys to make aid deliveries and its own controversial airdrops, Israel says fighting will continue elsewhere in the embattled enclave. Morocco's Beit Al-Quds agency has agreed to fund a project aimed at empowering Palestinian farmers in the Al-Quds or Jerusalem governorate. The agency recently met with the Minister of Agriculture in Ramallah, the Palestinian administrative capital in the occupied West Bank. The assistance comes at a critical time for farmers around Al-Quds, facing challenges that may not the land earn enough money. The support comes at the right time. We thank Morocco and its king, its wise leadership and its people. We believe that their presence on the ground, in solidarity with the Palestinian people, is deeply appreciated. We would also like to thank them for the food aid interventions in the Gaza Strip. Following the signing, they visited projects and sheep farming villages. Farmers in the region are struggling to preserve their land, which is increasingly surrounded by illegal Israeli settlements. In the first phase, the project will provide them with seedlings, water tanks, and veterinary kits for their livestock. A national holiday in Cuba as it celebrates the 72nd anniversary of the Moncada barracks assault. Kicking off the festivities on Saturday evening was 94-year-old revolutionary leader Raul Castro. Despite the failure of the attack and the arrest of the fighters, it's widely regarded as the beginning of the Cuban Revolution. We're here to tell the world that the Cuban Revolution continues to fight, and without giving up on building a sovereign, independent, socialist, democratic, prosperous, and sustainable society, with its head held high and its dignity intact. This year's anniversary coincides with a period of economic stress, one of the worst in decades. It's seen food shortages, power outages, and high inflation, which are fueling a wave of immigration. Despite all the problems we have, we must always unite as a country and move forward, because in unity there's strength. The Moncada attack, led by Fidel Castro and its aftermath, including the execution of captured rebels, fueled public resentment against the regime of Fulgencio Batista. He was overthrown in 1959, and Castro went on to rule Cuba until 2008.
Tonight, mass stabbing attack.
I need you every time Walmart got multiple victims.
The terrifying scene happening inside a Michigan Walmart this weekend. 11 people stabbed. The suspect confronted by shoppers.
I'm Lana Zach in Traverse City, Michigan, with new details on the suspect as well as the condition of the victims.
Also tonight, emergency exit. Passengers aboard an American Airlines flight in Denver evacuate after the jet suddenly aborts takeoff.
We heard the loud boom, and they said that's not good.
Plus,
To join a deal with lots of countries.
I'm Weijia Zhang in Edinburgh, traveling with President Trump, who just struck a new trade deal today with the European Union after months of tense talks and a tariff threat looming.
Israel to let more aid into Gaza under pressure over the food crisis. The latest from CBS's Elizabeth Palmer. Punishing heat wave, millions threatened.
Tonight, a break from the heat before triple-digit temperatures return. I'm meteorologist Greg Gilmore with the forecast.
And later, it's a notorious place with a dark history. Old Joliet Prison, no longer holding inmates, but welcoming visitors.
The prison building was designed really to kind of scare the heck out of not only the people inside, but the people outside of it.
This is the CBS Week. Breaking news tonight, an apparent trade deal between the U.S. and the European Union. The president announcing the agreement just days before his deadline after months of negotiations with Europe.
I think it's great that we made a deal today instead of playing games.
A trade war seemingly averted with the EU, but with 15% tariffs set to go in place, what could it mean for the price you pay? New video tonight of a dramatic confrontation. The suspect in a stabbing rampage at a Michigan Walmart stopped in the parking lot by a crowd of people. You see it there, one man at gunpoint until police arrived. extreme weather with flood rescues in Missouri and dangerous half the country. American Airlines flight emergency, the runway evacuation. Look at that, passengers sliding down chutes, alarms blaring, smoke billowing under the plane. What we're learning tonight from one of the people on board. An inside look at a new school security zone. Drones responding in less than a minute to take down a shooter before anyone gets hurt. And there's good news tonight about this little boy's field of dreams coming true.
Nightly News with Hallie Jackson.
Good evening. We begin.
Celebrates the Lionesses.
Women's England team, they're unstoppable, winning the Euros for a second time on the trot.
And the key question, will it be the World Cup next?
And it's a memory the young Princess Charlotte won't forget. She anxiously watched alongside her dad, Prince William.
So after a nail-biting penalty shootout, Chloe Kelly scored the winner for the Lionesses, become the first senior England team to win a trophy on foreign soil, the first to win the Euros after losing their first game. They retain their trophy, and manager Serena Wiegman becomes, well, the winner third team on the trophy.
Minister will meet President Trump today. Downing Street says Gaza and Ukraine will top the agenda, but will Trump still be singing praises of the Prime Minister after today?
Thank you, Prime Minister. Slightly more liberal than I am, as you probably heard, but he's a good man. He got a trade deal done.
President Trump hails his new trade deal with the EU, but is it all convenient timing to distract from recent bad press?
I think it's the biggest deal ever made. Thank you very much. Congratulations.
The rise in violence against prison officers sees officials trial the use of lasers against misbehaving inmates.
This security facility a mock scenario of the type of violence that's all too common within our prisons.
There was a mix of sunny spells and scattered showers over the weekend, and there's more of that to come as we head through the rest of this week. But you can join me later for the full forecast with all the details.
It's just on 6 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
I'm Ellie Costello, and this is GB News Breakfast.
Good morning, it's 6 o'clock, and England are waking up as back-to-back champions of Europe.
The Lionesses are the first senior England football team ever to win a major trophy on foreign soil.
It's Monday, the 28th of July. Your headlines.
The Lionesses are bringing it home!
Queens of Europe, the Lionesses make history with victory over Spain. Jubilation for fans across the country, with England now the first national team to win a major tournament on foreign soil.
I was like, oh, how can this happen? Well, it happened. So, yeah, very happy. I'm so incredibly proud of the team.
Also ahead, the Prime Minister will meet President Trump in Scotland today. He's expected to push the United States to increase diplomatic pressure on Israel to get more aid into Gaza. And more young people now take ketamine than cocaine. We've got a special report on how the drug is destroying lives.
France 24. I'm Stuart Hall. The headlines today. Stability and predictability held by the EU Commission President as Europe signs a trade deal with the US. The deal putting a 15% import tariffs on goods, half the threatened rate. France's European Affairs Minister, though, just calling that deal unequal. We'll talk live to our correspondent Pierre Benzet, who'll join us from Brussels in just a moment. The Israeli military puts in place so-called tactical pauses in fighting from 10 a.m. until 8 p.m. in major population areas in Gaza, that amid other measures such as airdrops across the strip. I'll talk to our correspondent Norbert Polski in Jerusalem. And rounding up a weekend of top sport, King Charles III leads the tributes to England's history-making lionesses after they win the Women's Euro 2025 title in a dramatic final.
So these are our top stories. Donald Trump and European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen agreed on a trade deal. It caps months of negotiations and sets 15% tariffs on exports from the EU. Trump says the EU will invest an extra $600 billion in America and buy $750 billion worth of energy. Both sides have called it a deal. Authorities say at least 3 people have been killed and several others in western Germany. The crash followed a storm in the area. Around 100 people were aboard the passenger train. Germany's railways have faced widespread criticism in recent years over underinvestment in infrastructure. Israel and several other countries have conducted airdrops of aid into Gaza. It'll establish secure routes for convoys bringing in humanitarian supplies. The military says it'll also pause its operations in some parts of Gaza each day. Find starvation. This is DW from Berlin. You'll find me at dw.com.
Today, desperately needed aid enters Gaza, with local officials saying more people have died from starvation. The US and EU strike a trade deal with 15% tariffs to be placed on European exports. A 31-year-old man pleads guilty to the stabbing murder of a female colleague at a Canberra zoo. And a Four Corners investigation reveals major failings of the tax office, with over $50 billion slipping through the net. Hello and welcome to ABC News. I'm Catherine Robinson. The United Nations says Israel is not doing enough to address the hunger crisis in Gaza after the IDF began limited pauses in fighting so aid can be distributed. Israel has been under growing international pressure.
This is Asia Now.
It's 11 a.m. in Singapore and Hong Kong, 8:30. Even as both sides accusing the other of fresh strikes in disputed territories. Israel begins limited daily pauses in fighting across parts of Gaza as concerns grow of surging starvation. It said more aid trucks will be allowed into place, while Britain and the UAE have been dropping supplies for those in need. And Singapore's National Water Agency says it will call for a temporary suspension of work as it reviews sewer construction sites similar to the one near a sinkhole that gave way over the weekend.
Tonight on PBS News Weekend, President Trump announces a trade deal with the European Union, one of the largest in modern history, following months of tense negotiations. Israel opens up some room for more desperately needed humanitarian aid, including airdrops into Gaza. This amid worries it may be too late for some. And we traveled to New River Gorge in West Virginia to explore how funding cuts to national parks may impact the people around them.
Protecting the park and building the economy
Thank you very much for giving time to Amir Shekel 5858. I am Amir Shekel. Have a good life. Bye-bye.